And a very good afternoon, good morning, depending on what time zone you happen to be in. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting. You might think to one of the podcasts on, say, Apple Podcasts or maybe Amazon Music Podcasts, Spotify. We're on most of the major podcasts. So welcome to the show. Thank you very much for listening. And like I try to say every day, we believe me when I tell you, we totally appreciate you guys listening to the show. When I say guys, I mean, you know, men and women. Guys is just one of those words that kind of sometimes gets misinterpreted, maybe, but it means everybody, So everyone that's listening out there, we totally appreciate you listening to the show. We love hearing from you. And if you have any comments about the show, by all means, let us know. Just send that email and send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. Well, it's Thursday. We got a couple more days before the weekend. Big basketball game on tap for tonight between the Lakers and the Suns. That's a big game. Everybody's going to be having their eyes and focusing their attention on that game. Give you a lot of money flowing in on that game because, there's two different schools of thought on that. So we'll go into more about that, give you a general idea as to how the line movement is in that game, and of course, kind of let you know how the pros and how they look at that game, what their thoughts on that game are as well. Just by the way the line movements are going, we can interpret kind of what they're trying to say. So we'll be talking about that, and we also have a Major League Baseball game to put on tap. We're going to be talking about the Red Sox and the Astros as far as baseball is concerned. We only have one game on tap for today. Yesterday we had four, but one of them was postponed, so we did have three games yesterday. Meanwhile, today in basketball, like I said, the Suns and the Lakers. We'll go into great detail on that game, as well as the game between Denver and Portland as well. So that's on the agenda for today. And also, just to give you another heads up, we're going to be talking about the overs and unders in basketball, how one perception of what it should be is really not what's going on. We'll go into more detail about that as well. So we'll be talking about basketball good part of the day as well. But as usual, what we do every time we do the show, if you're new into the show, the first time you're listening, we usually start out by telling you what happened yesterday as far as betting is concerned. And we get an email every now and then saying, why do you go through that? We know what the scores are. And I understand that. I know you know what the scores are more than likely. But are you aware how the favorites are doing or how the underdogs are doing? This is the type of data that you need to know and factor in with whatever type of a system you're using. I don't care what system you're using. If you're throwing darts at the wall, whatever it is, you still should have a general idea as to which direction it's flowing as far as the favorites and, of course, as the underdogs are concerned as well. So that's the reason why we talk about it. It just takes a couple of minutes of our time, and I think is very important for everybody to know what's going on. So let's get started with the National Hockey League, because the Avalanche, as a minus 180, beat the Golden Knights 3-2 in overtime, and now they take a 2-0 lead in that second round series. The Canadiens at a plus 130 upset the Jets 5-3 in their opener. And that was the one game we talked about yesterday. We finally decided to dabble in with the pros on a hockey game for last night, and that was one of the games that was the game we talked about. And of course, the pros were on Winnipeg in that game, and there just seemed to be no way you could think that the Winnipeg was going to lose that game, but they found a way, and definitely happened. So they upset the Jets 5-3 in their first game. They were a plus 130 on the money line. Now, the favorites and the dogs, the home and road and the over-unders, they all split yesterday. They had 1-1. The underdogs still lead 4-3 so far in the second round, but the favorites still lead overall from the beginning of the playoffs, 26-23. Road teams lead 4-3 in this round, but the home road teams are still tied at 26-26 when you look at the entire tournament that's happened so far. The overs lead 4-3 in this round, but the unders still lead overall only 27-25. No big shakes there. Meanwhile, in the NBA yesterday, the favorites and the underdogs split 2-2 straight up and against the spread. The 76ers, a 6-point favorite against the Wizards. The Jazz, a 9.5-point wizard against the Grizzlies. They both covered in those games. Meanwhile, the Hawks, being a 1.5-point dog against the Knicks, and the Mavericks, a 7.5-point dog against the Clippers, both pulled upsets last night. And if you're one of the zigzag guys out there, the zigzag teams also went 2-2 against the spread, with Philadelphia and Dallas covering. Atlanta and Memphis was the loser in that situation. The over-under is also 2-2 as far as the zigzags are concerned. The favorites are still dominating 28-11 straight up and against the spread. That's almost at 67%. The home teams lead 21-18 against the spread, and the zigzag teams, okay, and again, zigzag is also called loser of the last, okay, are 14-17 against the spread, 45.2%. Although the favorite zigzaggers are 10-3 against the spread, the zigzaggers that are favored 10-3 against the spread. The overs lead 20-18, and that's the story with the NBA. Meanwhile, in Major League Baseball, the favorites went 6-4, had upsets by the Mets, plus 102 on the money line against the Diamondbacks. The Nationals at a plus 137 against the Braves. The Orioles a plus 119 against the Twins. And the Rockies a plus 100 against the Rangers. The favorites still lead, though. They're at almost 56%. The unders were 5-4-1 yesterday, and they still lead at little over 50%. So that's the story. Major League Baseball, the NBA, the National Hockey League. That's what happened yesterday. So we're going to take our first break. And if this is the first time you've listened to the show, you know that we do take 3 breaks in the show. Each one is of about a 1-minute duration. So right after this break, we will be back in 60 seconds. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, or you may be listening on one of the podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google. We're on most of the major podcast platforms as well. So thank you very much for listening. Let's get back to basketball and what's going on for tonight. As we said, yesterday was kind of a mixed bag if you bet the NBA yesterday, because not only the dogs, but the favorites and the overs and the unders all went 2-2 against the spread. We also saw 3 teams get eliminated from the playoffs. Say goodbye to the Wizards, the New York Knicks, and the Grizzlies from Memphis. Now, while 3 other teams are now going to go into the second round as of yesterday. You now have the 76ers, the Hawks, and the Jazz. So with the field narrowing down, here's a kind of an updated odds numbers to find out who's going to win the NBA title. Now that it's started to take care of itself, survival of the fittest, whatever expression, whatever metaphor you want to use. These are the lines now out of BetMGM. That's where we get the lines from. They kind of help us out in that direction. So to win the NBA title, here are the numbers. The Nets are favored at plus 175. The Jazz are at plus 350. The Bucks are at plus 550. The 76ers are at plus 900. The Suns at plus 1,200. And down at 1,300, the Clippers and, believe it or not, the Lakers, 1,300. The Mavericks and the Nuggets, they're at 2,500. The Hawks that are plus 3,000. And the Blazers at a plus 8,000. So those are the lines so far for the teams to win the NBA title. Nets are on top at plus 175. The team that was picked to win the whole thing, the whole shebang, the Lakers, they're at plus 1,300. So if you're a big Lakers fan and you still have keeping the faith, keeping the candle burning, may not be a bad idea to drop a couple of dollars to see. At $1,300, that's a pretty good way to kind of do it. 1,300 if you bet 100, of course. That's the story there. So, but again, as always, we leave it up to you. Now let's take a look and see how the money is flowing for tonight's two games in the NBA playoffs. At 8 o'clock Eastern time, you have the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers. Now this is game 6 of the West's first round. The Nuggets, they lead the series 3-2. And they can eliminate the Blazers with a win tonight. Now, Denver is coming off that big win, 147-40, double overtime in Game 5. And that game, they covered. They were 2-point home favorites in that game, and they still covered. Now the series goes back to Portland. This is Game 6. The line opened with the Blazers listed as a 4-point home favorite. 4-point home favorite. Now, the pro money has come down on the Blazers to come back and to force a Game 7. Okay, as we've seen Portland move from being a 4 to a 5-point favorite for tonight. Now, keep in mind one thing. Short favorites of 5 points or less are 18-6 against the spread. That's 75% so far this postseason. Now, the total in this game opened at 228.5. It's been bet down to 227.5, which means that the pro money is in on the under. Now, this is kind of surprising because the over in this series is 4-1. Okay, so it's kind of a surprise in that direction. But remember, when the total is 220 or higher, the over is almost 71% so far this postseason. Now, leading the series 3-2, the Nuggets are a minus 250 favorite to go to the second round, and the Blazers, they're a plus 200 dog to come back and win this series. So in the first game tonight at 8 p.m., the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers, the pros are on the Trailblazers, and they're on the under. It is their contention, their feeling that the Portland Trailblazers are going to come back and win tonight so that they can have a Game 7. So let's take a second break, and we come back. The late game, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a game that many, many people are going to be watching. Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Lakers. This is a big game. You could be watching history in the making tonight if you watch this particular game. So when we take our break and we come back, that's the first order of business. Kind of give you an idea as to how the line movement is going, and also trying to determine in which direction the pros are going in this particular game. But whichever way it is, it's still up to you to make the final decision as to what you want to do. So let's take that break. And just as a reminder, we'll be back right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of the major podcast platforms as well. Talking about basketball, the big tournament still going on, trying to find out who's going to be the champion. Just to give you an idea, in case you just listened, you just tuned in, you missed the first part. We talked about the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers. That's the early game at 8 o'clock. And in this particular game, the pros think that the Portland Trailblazers will be coming back to win this game, and they're also on the under in that game as well. And now the big headline game for tonight, maybe the big headline game for the week if there is no game 7. The Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, 10:30 Eastern time. So you guys in the East, we're going to have to stay up late to watch what could be a very historic game if the Lakers should happen to lose. Now, this is game 6 of the West's first round. The Suns lead this series now 3-2, and they can knock the Lakers out if they win this game tonight. Now, after trailing in this series 2-1, the Suns have now won 2 straight games, including that 115-85 blowout in game 5. And that game they easily covered. They were home favorites of 4.5 points. They covered with no problem at all. The game 6 line opened with Los Angeles listed as a 3.5 point home favorite. Los Angeles is favored by 3.5 points. The pros are really not overthinking this one, and neither should you. They've pounced on the red-hot Suns, taking the points, forcing the odds makers, because of the money that they come in with, to drop the line on the Lakers from 3.5 down to 2. So you have a 1.5 drop. That's the type of money that came in on the Suns. Lakers, 2-point favorites. But the big elephant in the room, Anthony Davis, no doubt about it. The Lakers' big guy missed the last game with the groin strain. He's questionable for this game for tonight. If he can't go, this line may even go further down and may even make Phoenix the favorite in this game. So you got to look at it from that perspective. If you like the Phoenix Suns in this game, you better get in early as soon as you can, because there's a good possibility that line may drop down to the point where you may be betting on a favorite. If you like the Lakers, may not be a bad idea to kind of sit back and see what happens and come in late, because if anything, once the word comes out about Davis, the line may drop even further, so you'll be able to get a better line if you're going to be betting it. Now, the pro money has also hit the under in this game. They dropped the total from 208.5 down to 207.5. The under in this game is 4-1 in this series. 4-1 in the series. When the total is 215 or less, remember this: the under is 8-1 in this postseason. Okay, leading the series 3-2. The Suns are now a minus 350 favorite to advance to round 2. The Lakers, they're a plus 260 dog to come back and win the series as well. So yesterday we talked about a possibility of hedging the bet here. Okay, that kind of is no longer really a good option, because if you take a look at the line for today, if you can get in on the plus side, it may not be a bad idea. Look at it this way: if you had the Lakers before the season started, you bet on the Lakers to win this first round, you can now hedge your bet by coming in and taking the Suns for whether or not they can cover for this particular series. But right now, it's too late. If you could have done this yesterday, it was still possible. But now that they're minus 350 favorites to advance to round 2, now you've really lost that advantage of any type of money line handling anyway, But if you took the bets as far as points are concerned, okay, that might be another story. But again, you have to think about that. But yesterday was the time to do it. Now it kind of looks kind of late if you wanted to hedge your bet with the Phoenix Suns in this particular series. So anyway, that's the story for tonight. The Los Angeles Lakers, Phoenix Suns, big game tonight. The pros in this game, they're on the Phoenix Suns. And like we said, right now, the Phoenix Suns are a dog, a 2-point dog. But be careful, because before the night ends, before the game starts, they may wind up being the favorites of the game, a lot depending on what happens with Davis in this particular situation. The pros in this game are also on the Lakers as well. Like I said, in the first game, the Denver Nuggets against the Portland Trailblazers, the pros are on the Trailblazers and on the under in that game as well. Now, here's a couple more updated series prices. The Clippers are plus 130, okay, to win their series. The Mavericks are minus 160. The Mavericks do lead in that series 3-2. Now, for Saturday's game 1 between the Nets and the Bucks, the Nets are at a minus 200. The Bucks are a plus 160. And also game 1 on Saturday, the 76ers are minus 200. The Hawks are plus 170. So those are some more updated prices as far as the series are concerned. Clippers plus 130, Mavericks minus 160, Nets minus 200, Bucks plus 160, 76ers minus 200, Hawks plus 170. So that's the story with the NBA. And now let's take a quick look at baseball. Yes, we have one game coming up as far as to talk about for today. Yesterday, we had a couple of games. We had actually 4 games selected yesterday. One of the games was postponed, and that was the Phillies and the Reds. The A's and the Mariners, that was a win for the system. Padres and the Cubs, we had the Cubs, that was a winner. And although it looked like the Marlins were ahead going late into the game, but somehow they found the way to lose it. The Blue Jays wound up winning that game. So yesterday, out of 3 selections, we had 2 winners and 1 loser. So for today, 1 game on tap for today. Very simple, very easy for you today. The Red Sox and the Astros. The Astros. That's the pick. Astros, a favorite in this particular game. Now, Jake Odorizzi is pitching for the Astros. And with the market where it is now, about 135, 140, kind of believe that there's good value in betting on the Astros, even though they're the favorites in this particular game, okay, to beat the Boston Red Sox. The Astros are going to be favored, no doubt about it. But things you got to look at is this. One of the things you got to look at, Martin Perez's splits. He simply gets hit by right-handed hitters. Righties have a career OPS of .809 against Perez. This would rank number 38 among all active hitters, head of sluggers such as Evan Longoria, who's at 808, JT Realmuto, who's at 787, and DJ LeMahieu, who's at 782. So take the Astros, and there's 7 righties in this lineup because the right-handers have been hitting Martin Perez all season long. So as far as the pros are concerned, they are on the Astros. They are favored in this game. So Astros against the Red Sox. The pros are on the Astros. So that's the story as baseball is concerned. That's the only game we have on tap for today. Trying to give you something in baseball, though basketball is really dominating most of the stuff that's going on, especially today, now that the Lakers are playing. Of course, if they happen to win this game today, you know there's going to be a lot going on talking about Game 7. Whoa, the money that's going to come in on Game 7 will be just astounding. They won't be able to count all that money that's coming in if they go into a Game 7. Either way, Lakers or on to Suns. So that's the story. And once again, just a reminder, to get a hold of us, very simple. Just send an email, and you can send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. Like we say, we've been doing this show for a little over 5 years now, and we live in a bubble here, kind of, we kind of been doing these things for all this time. We feel it's been working, but sometimes you may have to tweak it somehow because time keeps moving along, changes happen. So if there's any thoughts that you have about that, by all means, let us know. We want to try to be as close to what you would like us to be when we're on the air. So just send that email to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. And also, we're still working on trying to get that newsletter together. We have a lot of information that we're talking about to put into it to make it worthwhile. It's going to be a lot of work in getting it all put together and everything. So before we do it all, we want to make sure that there are enough people out there that are interested in participating once we do come out with the newsletter. So let us know. Give us, once again, send that email. Just send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com and just simply say, yes, I'm interested in the program. We'll get back to you if and when it all develops, but we'll keep you up to date on it as we go along on the show as well. So let's take our final break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at how the over-unders have been participating so far and maybe what to expect in the coming series. So we'll be back in the zone in 60 seconds. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, also on Blackjack TV and also on milehighradio.com as well. So we're all over the place. Anyway, let's talk about NBA. That's the big story today. And we're talking about the overs and unders and why this run of overs could be coming to an end real soon. You know, there's a cliche out there in the NBA, and it works most of the time. They say that the game slows down once you get to the playoffs. And this postseason has been quite a grueling situation when it comes to the pace of play. Now, in the regular season, the average pace for a team was 99.75 possessions per game. But in the postseason, the average drops down to 97. Now, only two first round series have averaged over 100 possessions. And if you remove those from the equation, you're talking about 95 and a half possessions per game. 95 and a half. Now, only 5 teams in the postseason. That's Miami, which also was eliminated last weekend, by the way, finished in the top 15 in pace this season. So it's not shocking to see the average drop off in the playoffs. However, this is very slow, considering that the slowest team in the league, that team in New York, the New York Knicks, they averaged 96.3 possessions per game through the season. These playoff games are being played at a pace equal to the slowest team in the league. So surely the games have to be of some low scoring, and that's what we've seen so far, and there's no doubt about that. But really, if you look at it, but from another perspective, not exactly. Because according to Vegas Sports Information Network, Dave Tooley, he big guy in there, he big guru as far as basketball is concerned. The postseason, he says the postseason has trended in other directions. The overs are holding an 18-16, which is almost a 53% edge throughout so far. If you remove the slog, that is the series between the Suns and the Lakers, the record for the overs is 17-12, or almost 59%. So what's going on? The overs are hitting at a higher rate than in the regular season of 50.4%. And if you put it simply, the teams in the postseason are just becoming much more efficient on the offense as of right now. Now, in the regular season, the average offensive rating was 112, almost 113 in non-garbage time minutes. Okay, that's according to the Cleaning Glass, which is a website that deals with these type of stats. However, in the postseason, the average is up by 1.5 points to 114.5 per 100 possessions. Now, the average frequency of half-court possessions has jumped from 80.5 to 81% in the playoffs. But offensive efficiency in those possessions has jumped to 98.5 points per 100 plays, up from 96.9 in the regular season. So the only real change in shooting that kind of sticks out is the success teams are having at the rim. In the regular season, the average shooting percentage within 4 feet of the rim was 64%. But so far, the teams are shooting at almost 66% in the playoffs. So all these numbers are from a small 32-game sample. I know that. We now have to figure out whether these numbers will be sustainable for the rest of the playoffs. Now, this may come as a shock to some of you out there who you consistently kind of put aside the defense that's being played in the NBA, but 9 out of the top 10 teams in defensive efficiency are in the postseason, and 11 of them finished in the top half of the league. So overall offensive efficiency, half court efficiency, and rim shooting are up for these teams, yet over half of these teams finished 10th or higher in defensive efficiency. Now, how can that be? You kind of look at it and say, hey, that's kind of opposite of each other. It can be because the offense rules the day, especially in the early games of the playoffs. The matchups tend to be a bit more lopsided. So as these matchups get tighter, you can expect that the scoring and the efficiency to really come down with it as well. Okay. Now, should all the favorite teams win their current series, we would have 5 teams that finished inside the top 10 of defensive efficiency among the final 8, and 2 would face each other in the second round in the Jazz and the Clippers. Oh, only 2 of those teams, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, finished in the top half of the league in pace, which means the pace is unlikely to get any faster, something that is also more conducive to those lower scoring games. So looking into the future, betting on over-unders, the general consensus from that little article that we got from Vegas Sports is that coming games, the under should dominate over the rest of the series once this situation is figured out with LA and, of course, with the Clippers as well. So once that's all put together, put to bed, you may want to start looking towards the unders in most of these situations. So just giving you a rundown real quick on the games for tonight. Denver against Portland. The pros are on the Portland Trailblazers to come back, win this game tonight, and also get into Game 7. They're also on the under in this game as well. The Suns and the Lakers, probably going to be the most watched game so far in the series. That's the late game, 10:30 Eastern Time. The pros in this game are on the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns at this point in time are 2-point underdogs. However, depending on how Davis, whether or not he plays or not, it will definitely affect the line, and it'll affect it in a way that more than likely the Suns will become the favorite, maybe 1.5 or 2, again, depending on how the money starts coming in. So if you do like the Suns, you better get in early. If you like the Lakers, sit back and see what happens. You may get a better line before the game starts. So that's the story for today. You got the 2 NBA games, and of course we have the 1 baseball game on tap, the Astros against the Red Sox. The pros in that game are on the Astros from Houston. So anyway, once again, thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow, Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. We're here every day, Monday through Friday at noon, Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you're betting tonight, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you do okay. Try to make the right decision in that Lakers-Suns game. It's going to go either way. We'll see what happens. We'll be talking about it tomorrow. Everybody will be talking about it tomorrow, regardless of what happens. But if the Lakers lose, boy, you're going to hear it all over the place. So good luck to you in those games. Good luck to you if you're betting baseball or hockey or whatever. And if you're not, well, sit back and relax, enjoy the games, have a great Thursday, and come back again tomorrow at 12 noon. So once again, thanks for listening. We'll be back at 12 noon Eastern Time right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Goodbye, everybody.